Well, thank you, Matthew. Thanks for the invitation, and hello, everybody else. You obviously have a fun group here, and it's nice to be part of it, albeit for an hour. John Allison, retired, have been retired for near 20 years now. Um, got pulled back out of it when this war with Russia and Ukraine started, what, 19 months ago or so. Um, at that time, all I all I was interested in was myself, and I tended to, in my spare time, float around as many older fellas do, um, on social media and other platforms like that. And I just got into updating people inside Russia with the news as we had it reported here outside Russia, because obviously there was a considerable difference in the way the two the two factions were viewing what was going on. And as part of that, I found this website, New Forest for Ukraine, um, and actually went and had a cup of coffee with a guy who set it up and was running it, a chap called John Stanton, based in Brockenhurst. Um, the bio of New Forest for Ukraine is quite a short and simple one. It started with one Polish lady in Brockenhurst on almost the week the war started, and learning that her hometown was establishing a refugee centre, collecting bedding and sheets and things like that, stuffing them in the back of her Clio and driving them over to that hometown, Poznan in Poland, to help equip this 100-family sports hall they were setting up to take in refugees. And that's really where it all started. Paulina knew John. John was recently retired, came from a background in logistics, and they decided they just upped the game, and they did. It went from sending carloads to sending 3.5-ton van loads. It moved from operating out of a couple of garages into a spare warehouse unit that was loaned to them by coffee mongers down in Empress Estate. And it grew and grew. Through last year, we at times were sending out 4 or 5 van loads per week, and each van held, well, it's called a 3.5-ton van. The payload is about 1.5 tons or 1.2 tons. We're sending out certainly well over a ton of aid a week, and that aid was coming from people across the New Forest, mainly individuals, people that sympathized with the plight of these refugees, and were providing to New Forest for Ukraine everything from food to toiletries, from sanitary items to bedding, from toys to, you name it, almost anything that you might imagine somebody who's running away from a war hasn't got. They were sending to us. We were checking it out, repacking it all into cardboard boxes, labeling it all up, and trundling it off out there to Poland, where it's being distributed to these refugees that were arriving. A year on, John and several of the other people who'd been running this thing for a year, I think just got to a point where they were tired. It was looking like the tenure on the premises that we were using as a hub were coming to a close. And I think the combination of that and the closure of the major center in Poznan, because a lot of the refugees out there were beginning to flow back towards Ukraine, all those led to John and the team deciding that really it was time to close the door. And that was quite a common thing at that time, going back now 6 months or so. There's quite a few other small charitable groups like us that had really gone at it for a year. But at the end of a year, they'd got a bit tired. Donations had fallen away. The apparent need had slid slightly. So there are quite a number of them that closed their doors at about the same time. Now, at that time, I was just a volunteer. Well, I'm still just a volunteer, but at that time, I refused to get involved in the executive of New Forest for Ukraine. I'd kind of been there, done that. I'm not really a committee man. Like most of you guys, I've run my own businesses for most of my life. I was quite happy to go down there 1 day, 2 days, sometimes 3 or 4 days a week, and just chip in really as a volunteer, along with housewives, pensioners, the occasional young person, but most of them on the older end of the spectrum, just getting this stuff out there. But having faced the risk that this thing might close and knowing there was still a need out there, I stepped up and said to John, listen, I'll take over. I'll take over. It's not a charity yet. John never ever thought it would be running 2 years after it started. So they set it up as a CIC, community interest company. So I took over. I became a director, pulled on board an accountant to be the other director, put forward a business plan to the old directors explaining what I felt I could do and how I thought I could take it forward. And with a sigh of relief, they threw the keys at me, and that was it. I took over in beginning of June. I was actually away in May for the whole month, but I was back in June to pick up the reins and start running New Forest for Ukraine from there on. And it's a lot easier to ride a bicycle than it is to invent one. So John and his team back in the day, I had huge respect for them for what they did and what they created. But I'd like to think we've taken it a little bit further. Last year, they spent quite a lot of money on these vans, 4 vans going out and back every week. It's a lot of fuel, certainly a lot of manpower, even though it's all unpaid volunteers. You're asking someone to take a week, 10 days out of their life to get these items out there. So I put the brakes on all of that and stopped sending anything for 3 weeks until we had enough to fill a 15-ton articulated lorry, which we sent, and we're now sending those. It started at 1 a month. We're now at about 1 every 3 weeks. And I think by the time January comes around, we'll be sending 2 of them every month. Each one of those trucks contains the equivalent of 7 van loads, and the cost, because it's one way, we're backloading onto Polish vehicles that are going back empty. The cost of one truck is actually the cost of 1 van load. So our logistics costs have tumbled considerably. They're still not insignificant for a little organization like us. For while we may be shipping what could be valued at, I think to date, the notional value on what we've sent is around about £2.5 million worth of aid. We've done all that on the smell of an oily rag, really. One of these trucks only costs us now about £1,500 to send out. We don't spend anything on anything else. We have our premises donated to us by Redrow. It's got no power. We've got no water. It's an empty shell of a building. So winter months, we shiver as much as the Ukrainians do. But our little team of volunteers, about 50 in total, have no hesitation in coming down there day after day and continuing to do what we do. It's quite a simple structure. We have 20 drop-off points across the New Forest. I say New Forest, Winchester, we have one, but broadly speaking, the forest, different villages, different venues, pubs, garden centres, shops, you name it. Anyone who wants to be a drop-off spot, we welcome with open arms and push out through social media and local press that this is where, if you've got something you can donate to somebody in Ukraine, it's where you drop it. And we have a team of about 20 housewives, pensioners, who with their cars were around all those 20 drop-off points and bring it all in to Empress Estate, where we've got our new hub, this one donated by Redrow. It's about 5 times the size of what we had before. As I say, a bit chilly in the winter and a bit dark in the morning or evening. But it does afford us the ability to store an awful lot more stuff. And I say store, we don't hold on to stuff longer than 2 or 3 weeks. We get it in. We've learned how to palletize this stuff, wrap it all up, 2.4 meter high pallets, so that we can get at least 9 to 10 tons onto those articulated vehicles every time they leave. And that's what we're doing. We're still getting the aid in. The mix of aid that comes in the door has certainly changed over the last year as people's pockets have got shallower. It's harder for people to add food for Ukraine, when they struggle perhaps to get food for themselves. But we still get a goodly amount in. And by approaching companies and approaching third-party suppliers of items that we know they need out there, we have more than increased the volume of aid that we send out. We tap into people like Millbrook Healthcare, who moved from contracts to supply the National Health with wheelchairs. We knew they would have a surplus, and they did. We've sent out hundreds of really good wheelchairs, even electric wheelchairs, fully working, fine, brand new from their boxes. We've sent out hospital beds. We've sent out bed hoists for hospitals. We've taken in PPE and extracted from it the stuff that can be used in an operating room environment, because they're less sensitive in Ukraine about a sell-by date than we are here in the UK. Clothing, we live in a very affluent community down here. So, when people are going through their winter wardrobe to sort things out, it's not hard to ask them to isolate anything that they're thinking of throwing out and giving it to us. And bedding, we have bedding by the mountain load, and it's all needed. It is all needed. So that's what we do. That's what we do. We collect, we appeal, we push to earn some money, but we don't need a lot of money because we don't spend a lot of money. The only monies we spend are on that transport. We go out once every quarter, more or less, once every 12 weeks. I will allow one van to take a run out there, carrying aid. We don't let it go empty. But invariably, we'll have 2 or 3 people on board who are part of our core team, part of the guys and girls that sit around every month and decide what we're doing. And we go out there really for intel reasons. We go out there to reaffirm relationships that we've got with NGOs that we found, to explore and find new avenues where perhaps the need is greater than the needs that our current NGOs have. We're always pushing the edge to try and make sure whatever we have gets to the people who really need it the most. And on the way, we've made some fantastic relationships. There's a lot of small groups like ours across the United Kingdom. I'd probably venture there'd be thousands, but contacting them is tricky. Finding them is hard. Establishing a relationship with them is harder still, because everybody wants the biggest bite out of the apple, and a lot of them have grown up not learning to cooperate. My view on life, my view on business, is that cooperation is what it's all about. That's what makes you strong, the number of people you got around you rather than you yourself. So I have worked hard, and we have managed to establish some great relationships with people who are doing not dissimilar things. Other organizations that are moving vehicles out, moving ambulances out, distributing incubators to babies, you name it. There are a number, probably 10 or so, that I can count on now as close allies in this battle we face in supplying Ukraine. And equally, the other end, we have about 10 NGOs, everything from quasi-government organizations within Ukraine that will distribute bulk aid if we decide to drop it there, or right through to individual repatriation hospitals that we've come across, have been introduced to and established relationships with, that we continue to support. And that's about it. How can you guys help? Well, you could let more of your colleagues know who we are and what we do. Getting ambient product, is something we haven't really pushed. It's always trying to keep everything in balance, I find, in business. And, so far we've had to keep the balance of the amount of aid coming into the home, the number of volunteers that we have to process that aid, i.e. sort it, pack it, the number of vehicles that we can afford to send out to Ukraine, and the number of NGOs we deal with at the other end. Keeping those four things in balance has been, it hasn't been a challenge. I'm going to be honest, it hasn't been a challenge, but it's been a task. And we've got there. We're in a nice place right now. As I say, we've shipped out close to 2.5 million quid's worth of product, over 180 metric tons of it, and we've done that all with an income of, for the 18-19 months, of less than 150 grand. So, I'm certainly not complaining about where we are and what we've done. But moving forward, we're beginning to raise all of those levels. We've got this palleting off pat. We've got, despite the fact they're pensioners, we can turn stuff around, and the stuff going out our door on pallets looks a whole lot better than much of the professional stuff that does come in the door on pallets. We do it well. We do it better than most I've seen around. We managed to drive the costs of the trucks down and down and down. I think they started at 3 grand, but we're now getting it for about 1,300 quid, which, as I say, is about the same as sending one van load out 18 months ago. The mix of product coming in the door has changed, but there's still a volume there, and it is still needed. They still need clothes. We still have communities there that run sanctuaries that get another 1,000 refugees moved from somewhere, dumped into their lap with barely the clothes they got on their back. And because we're small, because we get to places the bigger charities don't get to, and because we listen when we're talking to them, we'll get that scream, "Hey, John, I need a pallet of women's clothes, please." Like, not in a month or 3 months. We need it now. And we're big enough to fill that, but small enough to react quickly. It's just a really nice little organization to be involved with. So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm loving it. It's woken me up. It's given me something to get out of bed for every morning, and I know we're doing good. So yeah, questions, please. Right. Happy to answer them.
Thanks, John. I'm clearly passionate about it, and so yeah, well done on everything that's happened, and let's try and support you in whatever way we can. I mean, for example, I'm in the hotel world. When hotels have refurbishments and so on, there's all sorts of stuff that is not rubbish that could be used. So we can certainly make sure that they're made aware of the opportunity, not just
it would be great. I mean, at this point in time, household, I call it bric-a-brac, but pots, pans, cutlery, plates, anything like that. At this moment, that is required. And certainly when this war ends, I'm sure it will end, they're very stoic people, and they seem to be equipped with all the right kit now. I'm pretty certain they will beat, for want of a better word, the Russians. Peace will come, but they'll be left with a wrecked country. They'll be left with homes that have got no furniture. So, I could see New Forest for Ukraine, which, by the way, is now also moving towards charity registration, which is going to sort out tax issues and things like that. I can see this organization going on for a decade.
Yeah, good, important. So obviously lots of interest, there's lots of hands up. So I'll come back and be contentious later. By which I simply mean is, what do you say to people who said, why should we support you rather than everything else that's going on? So, and that's an important one. But let's listen to the other questions, and then, because when we send a message out to businesses, we've got to be utterly compelling about why this is what you can do right now, because it's having this effect immediately, and that's really important. So well, let's start with Petra, because you obviously work in the charitable area as well. Do you have any?
Yes, and actually, as a charity, we're quite a good charity in that we try and help other charities, and there was a lot of interest around the Ukraine as well from the people that we support, because obviously that report came out by Dan Snow with the people with learning disabilities in the institutions that had been left. So I kind of came because I was interested from that regard as well. But one of the things I was going to say, do you have a contact with Veolia? Because we've got a great contact with them. They're based out of the office that we have a contact with is based out of Southampton, and they basically empty all of the cruise ships. And then they can either incinerate or donate items such as furniture to charity. Now, we often don't have capacity, but it sounds like it might be something that a contact that you would find useful.
It certainly would be. We've just touched into that area with the I think they're called research ships, but they're part of the fleet that sail locally, and where they're medical people now. They got a sign off, and we had deliveries from them, and they too suggested that we talk with cruise lines to try and effect the same thing, because we can just shove that straight over into the Ukrainian medical system. Getting it to clinicians out there is just not a problem. It's something we've got a hub that we work with called Help Ukraine Center, which is a quasi Ukraine government and courier company, Nova Poshta, which is a company in Ukraine, a bit like our DHL or whatever. If we get stuff to them addressed to whoever we want it addressed to, they will deliver it from there through the Polish-Ukraine border, wherever it is, So, and we have the contacts with the clinicians within the Ukrainian medical system, where we're already sending kit like beds and wheelchairs, things like that. So anything you've got in that area, our guys will sort it, identify, pull out any.
The sort of things they recycle tends to be kind of furniture from cruise ships, although once we got 2 pallets of Panhaligon shampoo from them, which was quite nice.
Oh, right. Sorry, I thought you were just talking about medical stuff, but yeah.
No, so Veolia do waste not just for hospitals, but for
okay.
hotels,
Great.
all kinds of businesses. But they actually, the P&O cruise ships, that relationship, I've got Veolia basically recycle, redistribute all of the kind of, when a cruise ship turns around and says, oh, we want a new look, and they just get rid of all their brand new sofas.
Well, we haven't got a capability nor yet a need for furniture. So as I said,
so it's just medical supplies. That was going to be one of my questions actually, was do you have like a shopping list of specific items you need in bulk?
Well, I can provide one. There's not a problem in putting that together, but broadly speaking, that they will take whatever we can give them. The Ukraine Medical Service. They're not people seem to think Ukraine was like a bit like Poland, and Poland's a bit like Germany, and Germany is a bit like us, and it's not. It's not. If you go out there and visit, it's more like Russia. The towns aren't as pretty as the backdrops you get on the BBC. Most of them are communist-y concrete blocks that only have a few shops anyway, and that's anyway. That's when there was no war. Now many of those shops are woefully equipped with products, even toiletries, even shampoos, even soap, even bars of soap. It's just not there. It's just not there, even if they had the money, and they haven't got the money because their economy is wrecked, and they haven't got a job. It's a tough place for anyone to live at the moment. So anything you've got that is consumable, anything, if they've got, you talked about, coffee and all that kind of stuff that they might throw off a boat like that,
So just to finish my question is, if you send me the list of the kind of bulk, the items that you'd need in bulk, what I can do is suggest some businesses that support us with those sorts of things, and we're very
fantastic. Fantastic. I'll do that, Petra. I'll do that for sure. By the way, Matthew, how do I get the contact detail of everybody who's asked me for something?
I'll sort of do it the other way around, if that's all right, John. I'll give them your contact details.
Okay, super.
And then anyone who wants to follow up with you can do that afterwards. That would be great.
Brilliant. And thank you, Petra. That's fabulous. Fabulous.
Great. Excellent. Caroline, you have a yellow hand as well.
Hello, John. Nifty bit of time and motion there. You did a fantastic job with the vans and the trucks. I think many English businesses could do with your skills. But my question is about, I suppose, compassion fatigue. We're starting to hear that America might not carry on supporting it, and they've run out of ammunition, so it might not go as well as we hoped. How are you going about? How are you encouraging people to still support you, or are you finding people are getting tired of it?
I don't think people are tired of it. I think maybe I'm just the super optimist. I think you can overload people with knowledge on something, but I don't think that's happened with Ukraine. I think people kind of know what's going on out there. I see that there's political issues happening in Poland where they're banging the drum about grain going in and out and not helping, and I see the issues in America with everyone wanting to appear to be quite right wing because that's going to pull some votes. I see all that happening, but I don't know that fundamentally that changes the compassion that exists in this country. I mean, it's one of the beauties of being British, is the amount of compassion this country has for others. And I find it's just a case of reminding people of what the issues are. And they're a country at war, and it's only 1,000 miles away. This is not Afghanistan or Turkey or the Middle East. This is the other side of Poland, which is just the other side of Germany. It's not far away at all. And I as I said, it's all about balance. It's all about balance. If this were my business and I was trying to make money out of it, then there'd be a case for worrying about capacity, about where I'm going to get it, where's the donations going to come from. But the reality of life is, unless we get more money in the door and more volunteers on board and security of tenure on the premises we've got, only when we get all those three middle bits working can we then say, right, well, we need more aid, or are we worried about the level? We're not. At the moment, we're getting in about 10 to 12 tons of aid per month just by using social postings and events, getting out to the volunteers work their legs off. They're out. We go to the New Forest show, everything we can winkle or get a stand at no cost. We're ramming New Forest for Ukraine down their throats. Um,
Well, you're doing a great job.
oh well, thank you. Yeah, it's not me. I'm
Well, all of you, the
well,
combined effort.
yeah, the combined efforts of these guys. I mean, and what is wonderful, Carolyn, is it's just it's just fantastic people to work with. They're just really lovely, all of them. Yeah,
Yeah, good. Thank you.
thank you.
Rob and then Murray. Oops.
Thanks, Matthew, and thank you, John. I had the pleasure of sitting down with John Stanton for about an hour and a half earlier on this year. Started out quoting some web work for him, but we ended up sitting over coffee and cake at one of the cafes on Leamington High Street and talking about a whole lot more. And I was certainly very impressed by the commitment that he had and the confidence that he had in you taking on the role. And it certainly sounds like you're doing a great job. And you're very modest about saying it's everybody else, but it sounds to me like actually it's your leadership of them that's making a big difference to how the team's working. I'm sure you're going to hit me back with more false modesty there. So let's move on from that one anyway. So I wanted to say, right, first of all, clothes. So I'm a trustee, as I mentioned at the outset, I'm a trustee of Lyndhurst Community Centre. We run a charity shop here, which works pretty well for us. But we do end up with a lot of leftover clothes that people don't want to buy. And we're currently selling them off as rags. Now, we are making money on the sale of them as rags. But if they are of use to you in a charitable context, then I will look at other possibilities. I don't know, maybe I personally donate what we would have got for rags and you get the use of the clothes. So I think there's things to talk about there potentially that I'd be interested to follow up. So chair of charity myself, I would urge you to consider the benefits of gift aid. Maybe you're not receiving a great deal in financial donations, maybe it's mostly donations in kind, and you can only get gift aid back on those if you then sell the stuff on. But if you are taking a significant amount of donations of money from people, I think that the charity status will give you that good uplift on donations.
No, I mean we are on the track of getting charity registration, but we just had some advice from another trustee of another charity to think long and hard about the two forms of charity structure. One is as
CIO,
and we need to resolve, because while I love John with all my heart, he didn't necessarily resolve the potential for tax issues that we might have had for the last year, right? So now I've got to get my old accountants back in. They're digging into that at the moment to get that all resolved. Once I got that resolved, which should be inside a week from now, I should get that resolved. Once I got that resolved, then I'll know which way we go with the charitable status, and we've got that all set up, ready to go with a patron and everybody. So we need it. We need it, not least for matching. I'm insisting now that everyone we deal with over in Ukraine has a charitable status under, Ukraine law, with a stamp and a seal, and
I'm sure there's a bit of need for due diligence at the other end. I'm sure that you'll sadly find that, but you need to get that right. Just coming back to donations for a minute, can you take medications? Because for rather sad reasons, I've got quite a stock of Oromorph in the house here.
No, well, that's Oromorph is a dangerous drug, and no. Right. If we get that in, all we do is take it to a pharmacy.
Right. Okay. I'll deal with that by other means then. Thought it worth asking. I have got some other meds as well.
Yeah. No, take anything else.
Anything else. Okay. That's worth knowing. And I've also got some hardware that the NHS left with us. And when I called them to talk about them after my partner passed away, they said, no, we can't do anything with those, but consider giving them to the Ukrainian charity. So I'll have a chat with you offline about whether it'll be outside its use by date, I suspect now, but it's passive stuff. It's it's valves for dosing lines and things like that.
Don't let the use by date worry you in terms of Ukraine. Even we have medics the other end who have the ability to go through kit and decide there whether it's valuable or not valuable.
Right.
And there's nothing that we've sent so far they've turned around and said, don't give us that again.
Do you want me to drop it off at Empress or to a local?
Empress,
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'll do that next time I'm in Lymington. Are you generally open? Do I need to ring ahead?
We are open half a day every day, Monday to Saturday. Mondays, we're open in the afternoon. Tuesday and Wednesday, we're open in the morning. Thursday and Friday, we're open in the afternoon. And Saturday, we're open in the morning. And when I say morning, afternoon, I mean from 9:30 through 12:30 or 12:30 through 3:30.
Is that on your website?
Yes.
Great. I'll pick it up from there then.
Thanks, Rob. Brilliant, mate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. I think
Thanks
those
a
are
lot.
my points. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Thank you. Murray, over to you.
Yeah, hi John.
Hi.
It was just a quick one. Do you take donations for the animals now in Ukraine as well?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Oh, you do? Okay.
We've got four animal sanctuaries. When I say sanctuaries, do not think you're looking at Dr. Bernardo's here. You know, many of these are where a village has been evacuated, for want of a better word, and they've left their pets. Someone in the village staying just to look after the animals, and they end up putting fences around their own property, and they end up with 20, 30, 40 dogs, or cats and dogs, you know, or rabbits, you name it. But no, we send it all. We've sent rabbit food. We've certainly sent dog food, tons of it. We were fortunate enough to secure a donation on the last shipment before last, from Border Collie Rescue, a charity themselves.
Oh yeah, okay. I follow them. I know them.
Right. Well, they're lovely people. They sent us 3/4 of a ton of dog food, you know,
Wow.
which we were able to get delivered and spread it out so that it's not sitting there like a crime magnet in Ukraine, that it actually ended up with these sanctuaries that we're using it. And we get a photographic evidence back, which we provide through to people like Border Collie Rescue so they can see it in action. They also sent us a load of dog calming treatments, you know, because obviously if you think bonfire, bonfire night does to your dog, you can imagine what
I do,
a few rounds of high artillery do to a village full of dogs. You know,
yeah, can't imagine.
Yeah, so no, we do that with dog beds. Yeah, all of it.
Oh yeah, great.
Just about out of time. Is there any last thoughts from anyone? Yeah, as I say, John, if we can get
can you remind me of the website?
Yeah, well, I'll send you the link to the website and John's contact details, and then you can follow up any particular things with him, and especially if you want a list, or where to drop off things and so on.
Yeah,
so we'll do that for you.
Yeah, and the other thing I would just because this isn't on the website, but you know, you're all involved in business. If you've got any staff that you know, want to put through any kind of volunteering work or what have you, we have had teams in from Chase Manhattan, you know, come along and roll their sleeves up. We've certainly had groups from Lions, you know, come down and
that's a good one, John, because we do a lot of corporate sailing trips, and they always want to do something worthy in order to justify having a good time.
Yeah, I am a sailor, or rather I was. Yeah, I'm a bit too old now.
They usually ask to do a beach clean or something, which is very difficult around here. So yeah, I can suggest that they come and work with you for a couple of hours.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Or learning how to do a pallet. That'll be good. Yeah, excellent. Good bit of teamwork.
Yep.
Good. Any other last thoughts?
It's so good to hear stories such as John's telling about, you know, small, effective local charities. It's very close to my heart, this kind of work.
Yeah.
But it's only because of the community we're in. You know, like when I started off there, you know, Britain is such a compassionate nation, but I mean, I know people, you know, they can whinge on Facebook and things like that around here too, you know. But overall, you know, I mean, they're wonderful. They're just wonderful to do what they do, you know, for other people. If you saw some of these little, I wish I brought one of those. No presentation. I could just show you one of these little gift boxes that goes out to new mums, you know, with knitted stuff in. If it's just, yeah, it tugs your heartstrings. It's tremendous. So yeah. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to have a chat.
You're very welcome, and we'll do what we can to support you anytime,
Yeah.
not just now, but in the future. Just keep in touch.
Yeah, well, you certainly
thank
know
you.
where I am, and
Yeah.
thank you everybody who's offered to help. And for those with the new businesses, all the best to you. Yeah, I'm sure you'll soar. I'm sure of it. And for those of you who've got the business you already want, well done you.